Hi and welcome back. Today I'm going to talk to you about keyword phrases and finding the keyword phrases that you could target your website towards. Now the easiest way is to go to google.com. Now usually what happens is Google now automatically will geo-target the results you're getting. So in other words, I'm in Perth, Western Australia, and it's serving up Perth, Western Australian results, or what Google thinks are the best results for where I am. Now that doesn't help us when we're trying to build a website that's going to be targeted to the US, as what we saw from our research in the past videos. Knitting, a large amount of searches were coming from the US and the UK. So to get around that, what I do is I use Firefox as my browser, and I use an extension which allows me to browse as if I'm in the US, UK, Ireland, Canada and Australia. Now this is actually the Google Global extension, and that allows you to do that. It's the only way I know to get around that. What happens is when you change it to US, you'll actually it'll come up where you will actually be searching the US. Now what you need to be doing is down the side here, there's you probably won't see what I can see here, but you will see a link which says more search tools. You click on that link and you'll see what they call the Wonder Wheel. You click on that, and what happens is you get this type of effect here. Now I'll put knitting in here. Now what happens is the start of the Wonder Wheel comes up with the main phrase of knitting, and then it gives us all these legs which are like spokes in a wheel, and it tells us, Google's telling us, which are the associated phrases to that main keyword knitting there. So knitting socks, knitting hats, knitting video, knitting stitches, knitting basics, knitting patterns, knitting needles and knitting blogs. So as you can see, there's these are obviously the common terms that people are putting into the search engine, and this gives you a very good idea of where you should be going with your website. So if we click on one of these links, for example like knitting basics, this will actually open up the wheel and give us more depth into knitting basics. So casting on, crochet basics, loom knitting basics, knitting instructions, knitting changing yarn. Now if we were to click on another one, it would then go even deeper. So you can see that you can dig really deep into the niche and find out what people are typing into the search engine. Now what you need to be doing is making a note of these. So dig into each spoke of the wheel and make a note of every single one of these phrases that are coming up. So you'll start with one leg, you'll go off and you'll dig as deep as you can. You'll start noticing that a lot of the phrases will start getting repetitive, and that's when you've dug deep enough into that leg, and then you would go back to the original keyword, which was knitting, and then you would go off on another spoke. So you might then go to knitting hats, for example. So you would then make a note of all these keyword phrases. Now what you want to do is, in an Excel spreadsheet, start off with knitting as your first leg, and then the next column would be knitting hats, and then you would list all these phrases under knitting hats, and then you would do the same for each of these here. Now this gives you a very good idea of what phrases you should be targeting for your website, because you will see as you start making your list of keyword phrases which phrases keep on coming up all the time. There could be potential for a opt-in page that gives away free knitting patterns for babies, for example. and you know, you'd get people to opt in, you know, swap their email address for you know, to get access to those 5 or 6 free knitting patterns for babies. And then after that, you would then email market to them and actually get them to try and roll over into a membership site. And the membership site could be, you know, where they pay $27 to get access to 20 you know, new knitting patterns. And the knitting patterns could be, you know, one on men's hats, one on berets, one on you know, baby patterns, one on socks, etc., etc. So, you know, that's how you do your keyword research. The other way of doing it is going to Google's external keyword tool. Now that you can actually find at adwords.google.com, or alternatively you can just go to the Google search engine and just type in Google external keyword tool. There it is there. Click on that and it'll be this top one here. Click on that and it'll take you to the keyword tool. Now if you have an email account, you need to make sure that you sign in over here, and when you've done that, you can then type in a keyword like knitting. You would make sure that the advanced options are set to USA if you're targeting the USA. Otherwise you'd be you'd set it to whichever country you were targeting. Actually it's probably right at the top, United States. It's 1. You make sure the languages is English. You want it set to desktop and laptop devices at this stage, and you want to click search. Now what will happen is Google will come back and tell you what keyword phrases people are typing in, and you can see them coming up here. The other option is you can click this box here which says only show ideas closely related to my search terms, and that'll probably give you a better list of keyword phrases. So let's see what it served up. Yeah, okay, there you go. Knitting pattern, knitting patterns, patterns for knitting, you know, there's a whole ton of stuff. And now what you want to do is put this into a list, because you will use this in the future when you build out your website. Another great thing about this tool is we found out that this site here was actually ranked very high, so we can take this URL here, we can copy that, we can put that into here, and we can see what Google is saying that site is actually optimized for, and you can see it's knitting's patterns. Now that's interesting, because I would have said knitting patterns would have been the good phrase term to go after, and Google is saying it's actually knitting's patterns. So you know, that's an example of something that you need to be looking out for, because as you can see, we're searching in the, actually I didn't change this again, got to do this every time, which is a bit of a pain, but let's go back to United States, English, desktop and laptop, local, and then go search. Make sure it's in the US this time. We might get different results now. Okay, there we go. So because you see, you've got to be very careful you set up these correctly here, otherwise you get the wrong information coming back. Now what's happened is, now this is actually sorted. Let's go back to sorting it. Yeah, so you know that doesn't make sense. Yarn, yarn, yarn. Crochets patterns, crocheting patterns, crocheting pattern. So it seems like Google's saying in the US that site is optimized for crocheting rather than knitting. So I don't know very much about knitting, but obviously you'd need to look out for that. So your opt-in page might be, you know, here's 10 crochet patterns, for example. And as you can see, the local monthly searches in the US is 673,000. So there's a massive amount of search volume in the US. So there you go. Now you want to go through, you want to make a note of all the relevant keyword phrases. You know, don't put in stuff like this, yarn, 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 because it doesn't mean anything. But you know, all the good stuff, crochet patterns for, you know, stuff that's one word stuff like yarns, that's no good, so you can throw that out. But anything that's 2 words or more and it's relative to niche, you want to make a list out of, and those will be the keyword phrases that you will create opt-in pages for. You'll start with 1, and then you may go, so you may have an opt-in page which is, you know, I'll give you 10 crochet patterns for your email address. There may be another one that says I'll give you a free pattern for a baby sweater for your email address. There could be another one for sock patterns, but you know, you would test all of those until you found one that worked really well, and then you would roll them into a membership site where you offer these different patterns for a monthly charge. So that's how you create your keyword phrase list, and we will catch you in the next video. Thanks very much. Bye.